Alright, first recap. So I'm going to demonstrate stuff in the order I recommended doing it last night. So instead of going 1, 2, 3, might be best to start with number 3, then number 2, and then number 1. So working with the metronome, you're going to start every practice session at 60 beats a minute. So even if you get to like 100 or even the 120 one day, you still want to make sure that you go back to start at 60 just to make sure you can maintain doing that. One of the biggest challenges people have with playing at 60 is not rushing things, actually being patient enough to stay on the beat. And you want to think of it when you're playing, think of it like you want to be a split second late instead of trying to anticipate the beat, because usually when you anticipate the beat, it tends to put us a little early. But if you think about it, you want to play just a split second late. That helps us relax a bit when we're playing, lay back even more, and will make us sound more in time. Something sounds more in time if it's just a split second late versus if you're a split second early. If it's a split second early, then it just sounds rushed. If it's a split second late, it can sound much more solid, following whatever tempo you're doing. So tap your foot with your metronome the whole time. Something like this, usually with a straight eighth note count, it may not be necessary to say everything you're playing the whole time. However, counting the entire time you're playing here could help you keep track of when you're changing the chords. So typically when you're building up speed on stuff, you're going to go up 5 beats per minute every time you play something correct. Eventually, you can start doing things a little different. It really depends on what rhythm thing we're working on or what exercise we're working on. So for time purposes, you may wish to forego any repeat stuff. This way you can go up 60, 65, 70, 75, and so on, all the way to the 120, and make sure you can get all that stuff done, and then start working the repeats in. Maintenance speeds I want you to do for all this stuff. I got 4 speeds. You have 60, 80, 100, and 120. So usually when I do this stuff, I'll demonstrate at 60, I'll demonstrate at 120, and then in the middle there. So I'll be doing a 60, 90, and 120, just so you can use these things as reference. When we meet again, I'll be asking you to demonstrate everything at 60 and 120. If you'd like, you can videotape yourself first and send that over like a day or two before the lesson, or the day of the lesson. That works too. And this way you don't have to deal with the pressure of having to perform everything correctly right on the spot. And if you have any questions about working things up, let me know. Anytime you have a particular bar or a couple bars where you have trouble, like it's an extra difficult spot, just focus on those 1 or 2 bars and get those up to speed, or get that feeling more comfortable before putting everything together. I believe I'll talk more about that when we get to the first thing that was given last night. But for right now, let's do this more straight ahead thing. 60 beats a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1. And 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and done. Here it is at 90. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3. 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Brain fart. Take 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and more time. Hopefully I don't run out of breath while counting again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 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 and 2 and 3 and 4 and done. That's better. Alright, yeah, for the last chord on these things, you don't need to let it ring out the full whole note. I usually just hit it and then basically let it ring like a quarter note and just say done. So made it a whole note just to fill out the bar, because you got to fill it up with something. Alright, here we go. 120. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think the hardest part about that is just being able to say what I'm doing the whole time. So when you work a lot of things up to like faster speeds, you may notice it becomes more and more difficult to be able to say what you're playing. So bare minimum, I want you to be able to say everything you play at the 60 beats a minute. If it starts to become too much of like a tongue twister, don't worry about it at the faster speeds. You will be counting things at when we get to 16th notes at the 60 beats a minute, which is the equivalent of playing things at 120 with eighth notes. So if you can, try your best to be able to count things along at the 120, and this will help prepare you for counting 16th note stuff when we get to that. Alright, so this one, when you start doing the repeat, make sure that you let this chord ring out across the downbeat of 1 just for the repeat. So we are pretending that this is tied across over here just to simplify things. If this was to look exactly the way it's supposed to sound, then we would have an additional 4 bars, so this way you can see this thing being tied over. So this is just to keep things simple. And let's see, I thought there was something else to add on this, but I don't think so. Alright, here we go. 60 beats a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 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 done. Thought of something. So make sure that when you're going to be transitioning chord to chord, let this chord ring out as long as you can, and when you go to hit the upstroke on beat 1, so the upstroke of beat 1 here, or the upbeat of beat 1 I should say, that you're going to change your left hand position at the same time. So you don't want to let go of this chord early and then get to this new chord. Leave your hand down on this until you need to go to the next one. So that's a goal to shoot for with that. Alright, 90 beats a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 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 done. Sometimes you yawn when counting. 120. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 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 done. Okay. So steps to take basically what we did last night. So you want to be able to count this whole thing at 60 beats a minute with the metronome going, of course. So just be able to count along with it. And make sure you can do that 100% correct before you start adding the chords. So this ties into the, if you can't say it, you can't play it. So it's just kind of a way to like train yourself on how to strum it before you start strumming. So when you start putting things together, and I remember like a trouble spot was going from bar 3 to 4. So if you need to just single out these 2 bars and work those up by themselves, definitely do so. And whenever you make a mistake when you're running through something, when you're practicing, don't just keep going. Address the mistake right away. So let's say, I'll use this as an example again. So let's say you make a mistake going from here to here. Okay, and that's the first time it happens. So then, yeah, you go back to the start, try it again. So after 3 attempts, if the mistake continues to happen, well, then it's time to focus in more on where the mistake is happening. So you can take it even further and just focus on like this part here. So just that tiny little chunk. So that this way you're addressing exactly where the issue's happening, if that happens there. So again, this is just like if going from this bar to that bar is troubling. Yeah, they just work that up on its own and then eventually expand to the whole 2 bars. And then once this is feeling pretty comfortable, then you go back, try the whole thing again, and hopefully things will be much smoother. I think it covers that. So here we go at 60. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 4. 1 and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 4. 1 and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 2, 3, 4, and done. 90. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 4. 1 and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 4. 1 and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 2, 3, 4, and done. 120. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 4. 1 and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 4. 1 and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 2, 3, 4, and done. All right, there we go. I believe that covers everything we talked about. But if any questions at all come up, you are welcome and encouraged to send me a message, ask the question prior to the lesson, and yeah, I will plan on seeing you again Thursday night. All right.